Today is Monday, Mental Health Awareness Monday. At least that's what I hear. I think it's the whole month is kind of a focus on mental health. And I'll tell you, that's a good topic to bring up every now and again because, you know, it's the kind of thing that a lot of people just don't talk about in their personal life. A lot of people suffer from mental problems, emotional problems. You know, it's not to say that a person has some sort of condition or anything, but we all have our challenges, and sometimes they get the best of us. So that's mental health, right? And there's sometimes not a whole lot a person can do about their mental health in the immediate anyway. I know that from experience. Many years ago, for many years, I suffered from depression, and it was clinical, deep, very serious depression. I mean, there's no way to describe it. You know, some people who have been there would understand what I mean by that. There is just no words for it. You know, the best I can do is just to tell you that sometimes, well, daily, I would be sort of okay, and then all of a sudden it would be like this black cloud or this darkness just descended on me from the head down to the toes, and it would just change me. It would change everything of how I felt. I could go from being fairly optimistic in 30 seconds to being in the deepest, darkest, blackest pit of despair, where there is absolutely no hope. Utter despair. It's like being in an abyss. That's the best I can say, and it makes you powerless. It feels that way, you know. You don't have power in those moments to change your situation. And the way it works, at least for me, and I'll bet for a lot of people who have a serious issue, is that it takes away your will to be better, to see brighter things. If there was a way to feel better, let's say by going out into the sunshine and going into the garden where the birds are singing and flowers are blooming, that would be repugnant. That's the way it would feel. You would just shun it. No, you know, you just want to stay in that darkness. You want to stay in that pit, that despair. Maybe someone might be coming over, a friend or whatever, and you'd figure, you know, anyone who is not had experience with this might figure, oh, well, if you're feeling that low, you know, you'd welcome that. You'd welcome a friend to come over, you know, someone to give you support, someone to talk to. But the reverse is true. You know, you would avoid that. You would absolutely avoid anyone, any interaction, because it doesn't fit your loneliness. It doesn't fit your where you are. Just you by yourself, no one else, no hope. That's the world. That's what you see, and that's what you propagate with your actions and inactions. And over the years, I learned a lot about this because it was a very serious struggle for me. And I learned that sometimes you would enter times with more strength, where that darkness wasn't so dark, where it didn't descend on you and bind you totally. And in those moments, I learned this. I learned that the best absolute thing that you can do whenever you find yourself with some strength, some clarity, some light, is to take action. Action, any action, doesn't matter what it is. You know, you could clean your room, you could take out the garbage. It just doesn't matter, but you just have to act. Because action is the enemy of depression. And so what I did, what I tried my level best to do, was whenever I had that strength, whenever I had that clarity, I told myself, John, take action, do something. And I did. And the more I did that, in a way, the more those clear moments came more often. I got strength more often. And then more often, I would take action. And that gradually helped me. But it didn't clear it totally. And this is something I want to say, that that's what I mean when I say that sometimes you just can't help yourself. Sometimes there is no help unless you make a discovery like I did. Because sometimes it is so chemical in your body that there is something wrong, that you could take all sorts of action and therapy or whatever, and nothing maybe would help. Drugs maybe don't help. So sometimes what it is a chemical imbalance that the typical medication for depression, the SSRI drugs, can't address. And with me, that's the way it was. I tried for periods of time, SSRIs. I took Zoloft and what was it, Paxil or whatever. I can't remember the name. I tried about 3 or 4 of them, and none of them worked. What I ended up discovering for me, and it certainly wouldn't apply to, most people, but if the drugs don't work, then it kind of tells you there's something else, It could still be chemical, but they just don't know yet what in your case it is. Well, I found out what it was in my case, or at least I'm pretty sure. And it worked like this. I had a intestinal problem, went to the doctor, and he says, well, I think you have a low-grade infection. So he gave me antibiotics targeted for that. And after 2 days of taking the antibiotics, for the first time in like 10 years, I felt like I was almost completely clear, like no depression. And at the end of 6 days, there really wasn't any, not a scrap of depression left. I mean, it was mind-blowing. And so based on that, I thought to myself, well, what the heck, How does that work? So I did a little bit of research, actually a lot of research, knowing something about how they say depression comes about from when the nerve endings don't successfully pass the serotonin through the synapse from one nerve ending to the other so that it can circulate in the brain properly. And so it gets reabsorbed by the sending nerve ending. And the SSRIs are selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. So their job is to stop that nerve ending from reuptaking the serotonin. But if there isn't enough serotonin in your brain to begin with, then all that is moot. It doesn't help. And that's what I figured was happening with me, and I figured it was because of this low-grade infection in my intestinal tract. So I did the research, and I found a causal link there. In other words, serotonin is manufactured in the body, and I kind of dug deep on, okay, what's the mechanics of that, and could an infection inhibit that? And I discovered that, at least the way I understood it, that yes, it could. And I could have had a low-grade infection that lasted for many, many years, just not discovered, not treated. Anyway, that's my theory. Who knows whether that is fact or not, but it worked for me because my depression ended when I took the antibiotic. Since then, I have not had a recurrence, and it's been, a hell of a long time. I don't know how many years. I mean, it's well over a decade. And prior to the depression happening with me, I was great. I was fine. I mean, I was fit, I was healthy, I exercised all the time, I was into very athletic things. I was a runner, a cyclist, into martial arts, meditation, qigong, tai chi. I mean, yeah, I used to teach that, and so my life was good. And then depression came and it changed. So, yeah, mental health, mental awareness Monday. It's a big deal, and it certainly deserves to be brought up and discussed, so that people know that, hey, you're not alone. People are afraid to bring up the fact that they feel emotionally unbalanced. They don't want to talk about it, but it's okay. I saw a YouTube video from eveRide, and I think his name is Tyler. And a lot of you are probably familiar with his channel, eveRide. I think it's pretty common knowledge of anyone who watches his channel that he suffers from depression, and on and off over many years. He's talked about it many times. And lately, and maybe I'll link to it right here, right there, up in the top here, he posted a video describing his current situation. And I won't go into it too much, except to say, watch his video, because, I mean, you can see the power of it, the power that it has over him. I mean, for a guy with a successful YouTube channel and business, and here he is crying on the video because it is just so overwhelming. And I applaud him for having the courage not only to speak, but to publish it, despite the fact that he broke down. And I hope that he finds a solution, much like I did. I'm totally free of it. Not that I don't have my challenges at times, but hey, life is a challenge, right? Life is a challenge. But that's a good challenge. I don't want anyone to go through what I went through. I really don't. I mean, it's so terrible. And I hope that by talking about it, maybe someone can perhaps, if they're at the early stages, maybe by listening to this and understanding that there are a lot of other people in your boots, maybe they'll go to someone and talk about it before it becomes so bad that there's no way that they can or would even want to. I'm going to stop rambling on now. So I hope that resonated with some of you. I hope that it made some sense. I hope that I didn't put it in a way that was difficult to follow. So I think on that note, I'm going to wish you good mental health, good emotional health, and the courage to seek help if you don't have it. And I'll say goodbye. You ride safe. Have a blast. And I'll catch you hopefully on another video.